Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of Mark Tech doing pretty weird stuff for his live stream channel, because apparently I thought it was quite a good idea to do an unboxing live. So let's see how that happens. You wouldn't believe the clutter that is on my desk right now. What you're seeing right now through my iPhone that is connected to my Mac is the cleanest part, which is the unboxing and comparison stuff that I will be presenting to you. And everything else is like my Coke, like Coca-Cola, again, YouTube, please don't demonetize me, even though I'm not monetized yet. An extra light source, like my AirPods if I need to like react to anything, my mouse, which I cannot use because it's now on the left side and I really cannot use my left hand. My microphone is in between, but positioned in a way so it doesn't get interference too much from my fan, which is cooling me down. And everything is like also cluttered with like charging cables and stuff like that. So let me give you a better look of what we are going to be reacting to today. Obviously this is not a reaction video in the traditional sense. Now I have ordered an Apple Watch Ultra 2 and now I've also ordered through the most gruesome ordering process ever for an iPhone since the iPhone 6. My iPhone 15 Pro Max with 1 terabyte with Titan Blue. So I got what I wanted to. My Apple Watch Ultra 2 is coming actually next Friday, and my iPhone is coming somewhere between September 27th and October 3rd. So I didn't quite get it for day one, but there are many people who got far worse dates in that regard than I did. Now what I already do have, obviously, is this. This is the FineWoven Midnight, you could say midnight blue, right? It's not really midnight like black by any means. It's definitely a blue color. I'm not that colorblind, but so I got that, which obviously in regards to Apple's new environmental push is now made out of their leather alternative, which is called FineWoven. And obviously it's for the 15 Pro Max. Now I didn't have that much in comparison, so I basically got everything I could from myself and my mom. So what you got here is the Apple Watch leather band, which feels super nice. It's ink colored, so it is a very dark blue as well. It's just a somewhat different shade. It definitely has like a somewhat darker aesthetic than even the midnight one, at least from the outside, right? I obviously cannot be sure what happens once I unbox it. The other one is my mom's iPhone XS Max leather case, which, forgive us the really shitty look after all those years. I think she got this like I think I got it for myself like half a year before handing it over to her. So it is now 2.5 years old, and if for some reason it has aged far quicker and far more aggressively. Now in the light that I'm showing, it kind of looks maybe a little brownish to you, but yeah, it is definitely red. I think it was a product red one, but it's definitely a very pretty color in real life. I can promise you that. And it feels still really good. Though the surface is now like, it doesn't really have a leathery like texture to it anymore. It just feels super polished for some reason. Obviously it got darker on the outside as well, but as I said, it is a little more red in the actual real world. And yeah, it has the nice metallic buttons that actually add a lot to the premium feel of the case, because I obviously know that Apple's leather is not like the finest leather you can use. But yeah, this is actually like the worst aged leather thing that I've seen from Apple. Everything else has aged a little more gracefully over 2 to 3 years. Though I do believe it was like in like it got a lot of water contact in like the last 2 years, like rains and stuff like that. Yeah, so it definitely isn't bad by any means. Now there is an extra accessory here. And I apologize because I believe I hit the microphone here on the way. This is what we are going to actually be unboxing first. That's a little surprise. Now some might say, well, dude, you have AirPods Pro. Why the frick do you need earpods, right? I always want to say earbuds with USB C. Well, for one, I'm getting a USB C iPhone, obviously. My iPad doesn't have a 3.5mm headphone jack. My Mac has one, but why would I get anything with 3.5mm if I can get something that will work across all my devices anyway, with very little extra work? Now what you hear now is the fans on my MacBook Pro running, because OBS is running through the software encoder, not the hardware one, unfortunately, because the last version is kind of bricked with the latest macOS Sonoma beta. So let's get into this, and I hope the fan noise doesn't annoy you too much. Oh, I actually don't think I even need a knife, right? What I like about Apple, they do have like those nice pull tabs, and everything is paper now as well, so it's pretty easy to open, pretty easy to get out. And it's what we've been used to since the iPhone 5 days, right? So this is like a decade old at this point in many regards, except for it obviously being USB-C. It kind of is shocking to me that it took us this long to get USB-C EarPods, given the fact that we do have USB-C only iPads, right? And the iPad market still is something that would like to have like an audio solution that is completely latency free without any adapters and stuff like that, and that is also like first party. These are 19 euros. So those are actually even like well priced, even for like a decade old tech. I know the sound isn't like amazing, but like when I put that in my ear, it just feels heavenly. Those are like, if I could get anything with like active noise cancellation, even if the active noise cancellation was like half as good as on my AirPods Pro, something that feels this good, yeah, I would get this. So let me quickly fully untangle it. I think it's the same length and the same thickness that you would usually expect from like Apple's audio accessories in that regard, kind of like the iconic like iPod headphones. But it's kind of weirdly like put here in a way that, yeah, it wouldn't be that difficult to break here. Obviously this is very thin, but yeah, I think this is nice. Obviously I don't have anything to like audio test them right now, but I don't think I need to. This is the same thing that we have known for a decade, and I'm very happy that now I have them, because small explainer, the reason why I bought them is because I do now like reactions on my live streams, and while my AirPods Pro are really good at holding a charge, depending on how long my streams actually turn out to be, it can be a little bit of a pain to always make sure that they are charged. Here, by the way, like the same like iconic white. I don't know if the camera is doing a fantastic. Oh, but they are magnetically attracted to each other. That's fun. Yeah, I have to make sure that those are charged all the time. Sometimes you will see me like switching like from left to right or from right to left ear, depending on if the battery starts to run low on one side. And like a super long stream I wouldn't even be able to do with both of them, because sure, they hold their charge for like 5 to 6 hours, but what if I forgot to charge them? They're only at 50%, and then both of them run out. Obviously they charge very quickly inside the case, and they will stay my go-to headphones, but those are a nice addition, primarily thinking of the channel here. Really glad that Apple actually updated them. I kind of almost lost hope, given that we didn't even get like a USB-C Magic Mouse or like anything else. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get them like in October, right? Maybe we'll get some new, like not even an event, but like a press announcement. Maybe if we actually end up getting an M3 iMac, it obviously would need to come with accessories that are fully USB-C. Otherwise, Apple would just get majorly made fun of, and I don't think they want that. Now, forgive me, I need my Coke. I need the energy to make all of this look good. I was setting this up, and my mom was still sitting next to me, and she was like smiling a little while I was preparing everything, and like I was training the moves of how I would present stuff in front of the camera. And she was looking at me this fun way. I'm like, yeah, this ain't porn, right? The only rule here isn't to not look into the camera. I actually have to look into the camera in a somewhat presentable, not too crazy way. Yeah, by the way, let me just add a little bit of light here for some context. Yeah, I do have my iPad positioned here to use it as an LED flash. So that's how you can also use $1,300 piece of hardware. Next, I actually want to unbox this, because we are getting to the good new stuff, but this is the really good old stuff. Now, you see this in German here. No, it's not. Really? I only got it out of the box, right? I really didn't know that they didn't region code those. It just says leather, and obviously the color. Now the color is dark cherry, and you might actually see what it says if I put it close enough to the camera. It is for the 13 Pro Max. Obviously Apple does not make any leather accessories for the 15 Pro Max. Now, why do I have this? It's because I have a 13 Pro Max myself. However, I've never owned a leather case for it. What I do have is a Pitaka case, right? Those nice aramid fiber cases, which are very thin, very durable. Can really highly recommend them. Here it is, by the way. Right, super thin. It doesn't fully protect it, this version. I believe those are now the Megas Air or something. They do have somewhat confusing names that I don't keep up with. And it does have like a small brittle here a little bit, but it is still really good, right? And I do have the clear case, which I don't have here with me. So my mom is getting my 13 Pro Max, and she really wanted a leather case. I told her that Apple would be discontinuing leather, and she was like, dude, I need a leather case. And I'm like, okay, dude, which one? And she was like, let me look. And we were going through Apple's website, and ironically, like all the old leather accessories, they are gone to a large degree. Like, I mean, they were already gone, right? Even before the event. And the interesting part about it was that this one, the dark cherry for the 13 Pro Max, actually was on Amazon still, and it was then available for a third off, right? So we only paid like 35 euros for this or something like that, which obviously is, in the grand scheme of like leather accessories, really, really dope. So let's see how good it actually is. Now I have to make sure that I know how to open it, obviously. I can be pretty stupid when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah, I can just move it out. That's actually really, really comfortable. Okay, we do have some instructions. Do we have some Apple, do we have an Apple logo or something? Like an Apple sticker here? No, we don't, unfortunately. Would be actually nice. So this is dark cherry. Now it actually looks like this in real life. It looks maybe a little more brownish because I do have, wait, I'll just turn off that light. Yeah, it now looks way better. I had like a yellowish light here next to me. So this is how it actually looks. It actually, given that I'm capturing this from my MacBook camera in the front, it's actually really good because my iPhone is capturing my my table there where everything will end up in the end. And I have to say, yeah, it's kind of awesome. Yeah, it's like, does the, no. Yeah, the magnets react to each other a little bit, but obviously those are not like designed for each other. It's designed to connect to your iPhone. So it's the other like polarity of magnets on this side. Yeah, it feels really good. It looks really good. Does it have the same quality as something like a Nomad case, which like one of my best friends has one? I would say probably not, though it does feel like I really like it if it feels a little more smooth, and it isn't as smooth as like if we go back to like ancient history and compare it to like the old like product red leather. Like you can see that the red one is far more shiny, because obviously after years of usage it has become like this really polished bag, while here it looks far better. Obviously we also have the centered Apple logo versus the Apple logo here being slightly higher. Origin unknown. Is it a case review? Well, for now it's a case unboxing. Obviously I cannot put those into cases because my mom has her XS Max with her. The 13 Pro Max is used to capture the table, and obviously I still don't have a 15 Pro Max. However, I might come to a pretty quick conclusion if there's like a wide disparity in quality, right? To either direction. So you can definitely see the lineage here, right? It's not like Apple like change their approach to leather in a drastic way. And actually my favorite leather thing from Apple, which I've already shown, is like my Apple Watch band with like the magnets inside. It's the In Color, as I've said before. So when you actually look at them all next to each other, I think it's very clear that Apple knows what they're doing with leather, even though it's not quite necessarily the most premium version of leather that you can get. So let me move everything here. So this leaves us now with one final candidate for like good or bad Apple cases. Now I do have a knife, obviously, which I try to use for the EarPods, which wasn't necessary. So now the question is like, do I need it for this one? Yeah, this is, by the way, the one thing that never felt that good sometimes about Apple. Like they obviously try to like reduce how much paper there actually is. Or they might use like a softer, more recycled paper here, which makes it a little harder to get out, but it's possible. And I can already tell that the texture looks very different. And by the way, this is why I do have this setup on my table, because before I do any touching myself, please take a look at the difference in texture, right? Now I've said that the XS, the red case, is like very glossy in like a wrong way, right? Because it's obviously used. But you can see like a small shininess to the dark cherry one, the 13 Pro Max one, which you don't see on the FineWoven. Now the FineWoven in real life is darker than what you see on the screen. I can very briefly turn off the flashlight from my iPad, but it looks better with the flashlight, I can promise you that, because it's white light. It's really neutral in that regard. Yeah, so it already looks, I would say, given how much we are probably all primed, exactly, Origin, you're saying it looks matte. Yes, exactly. It like obviously they're all matte by the definition versus like, you know, like piano glossy, but it looks hyper distinct. Now let me just feel it by itself. It doesn't feel leathery at all. Sheesh. Now, I've heard that some people reacted really negatively to it. I have to say I don't share that reaction. It feels, though, very weird for the very first time. it has a far more like, it's not like a jeans like fabric, but it's more like fabric-y. I think there's the reason why it's called like FineWoven, right? Even though it's probably like maybe mostly polyurethane or something. By the way, say hello to Bella here. She's joining us as per usual. Apparently she really likes the sound of my voice. So good girl in that regard. The inside feels worse. I will be perfectly open about that. Oh, the buttons feel good though. They feel very easy to press, almost like too easy. But given that, like, I found sometimes buttons sometimes too hard to press on the older ones, like those metallic buttons here, those are a big plus. Now, obviously, that's not the main thing we're reviewing here, but man, it feels sturdier than a regular leather case, I would say. Like, let me compare it to actual, like, fresh leather, right? I mean, this is like best case scenario that we can get. I mean, we could probably get something for the 14 Pro Max, like the leather version. Given that I'm like, I'll not be lying, right? I will not be like praising this just for being new or being Apple-y. For now, I'll have to say it is definitely better than like first case impressions have suggested. Also, I like that the Apple logo is a little bit easier to see here than here. Here you really have to rely on like the light catching it. I think this one has a far like wider like range of when it actually is a little bit shiny. You can also see like very, very fine, like almost like jeans like patterns once you actually go there. Yeah, it actually feels like surprisingly jeans like the more I tested. Origin unknown. Yeah, you're saying you can understand like leather, because obviously I think we all have used leather to a degree. Even like leather, like imitation materials thus far have really focused on like replicating leather. I don't think this is trying to do that. Yeah, it's actually not that wrong. Like, this is why I like looking at chat. He's saying that it looks a little bit like a mouse pad, you know, like this slightly rough surface, so you don't glide off. Also, by the way, listen to how it sounds when I move over it, and listen how it sounds when I move over the leather. You feel that there's like less resistance because it's a more like polished surface, you could say. Now, this won't, I don't actually think that this will be a review. Also, by the way, just for a small thing, for this being an iPhone 15 Pro Max versus 13 Pro Max, now you can see that the camera hole is larger on the 15 Pro Max, though it's not egregious by any means. But when you actually overlay them, you find that the 15 Pro Max does have like a slightly smaller like footprint in terms of two-dimensionality, right? Like width and height. And in terms of thickness, they feel almost identical. Obviously, I know that the 15 Pro Max has to be a little thicker, but it's really not a substantial difference. The fact that I'm getting like all the improvements and even better camera, right? I think you can really tell like the camera holes when I put it like this, right? You can see that this obviously the 15 Pro Max camera hole is larger than the 13 Pro Max camera hole. Yeah, I'll put them both down in like good light. Right? Yeah, I think this makes them look good. It definitely shows a difference in materials though. Ooh, which one would I immediately prefer? I would say, like, when I was looking at like the reactions online, I was kind of like saying that like maybe I'll like learn like live to regret the purchase. I am not. But would I say it feels better than the leather? No, it doesn't. For the point right now, I have to say leather, especially new one, feels better. I'm kind of really curious. Obviously, you do have like the ancient leather next to it. Also, like a small point of comparison for all of you guys. Here you have like the ink colored leather band, which obviously is like a nice contrast to the midnight blue. The midnight blue is far brighter though than I expected. Now it's not as bright as you see in the image. Again, I'll briefly turn off the flashlight, which this is probably like the best color rendition. And I see already half of it, the table is like covered in, like I cleaned it like 15 minutes before this, but then my cat jumped onto this, so this is probably some dirt from her feet and then some hair. JV Xaisel, I assume. Am I getting the iPhone 15? Yes, I am. This is why you're seeing an iPhone 15 Pro Max case. You're saying you're excited for it, but way too broke to afford it. Well, will I be getting the new Series 9 watch? I'm getting the Ultra second generation, the Ultra 2. By the way, I'm not a big show-off when it comes to the Apple Watch. This is a Series 4. This is a 5-year-old watch, the aluminum version, without cellular, and it is mostly paired with my Nike Sport Band. Right, so it's not like I'm really a big show-off, though you can see that my arm is pretty thick. So I can definitely move up from 44 millimeters to around 49. And I didn't order additional bands because I ordered mine with the blue Alpine one. Honestly, the iPhone doesn't excite me in any area apart from the new chip for console games. That's an interesting focus, like, because for many people I usually hear that like, oh, how much more performance do you actually need in a phone? Now I personally get excited by everything that is a substantial upgrade, right? You could argue that some specs are already good enough, right? Like the screen gets plenty bright, the 5G speeds are more than good enough for most tasks, the speakers are pretty decent for the size of the, well, they're awesome for the size of the device, but they're pretty decent even in comparison to something way larger. And obviously you have USB C, which could be like the secret or not so secret winning feature this year. But yeah, to me it definitely feels like the performance and the camera upgrades are what exciting me. And also of course titanium. Now I've seen some things where people are like, oh, titanium attracts smudges, and I'm like, yeah, everything attracts smudges always. Like, why are people surprised? If you're not using a case, you will always see smudges. Especially like people who went into like the review, like in the early hands-on area, and they're all like sweaty in a hot room with 50 other people. Of course, it's gonna leave smudges. Now, there might be a difference between like the natural gray titanium look and the other like. I think it's like PVC coated or something like that. I'm not an expert in like the English terminology of how you color aluminum. It's not anodized from what I understand. So to me it's interesting if maybe the colored ones are behaving worse than the natural titanium, but the titanium blue looked way too good for me to pass up, so I'm getting it regardless. So let me just briefly get everything again here that I want. Just make it all a little presentable. Like my iPhone seems to have the wrong focus though. Okay, yeah, that looks way better. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's my first unboxing, so bear with me, guys. Yeah, so those are the two ones, right, that really matter. Everything else was just for context. I can also, for context, add like my 13 Pro Max Pitaka case. So Just let my iPhone show up here. Man, the table looks so dirty. I just cleaned it. It's so embarrassing. Regardless. What do I think? Well, I'm sticking with like my initial impressions in terms of leather feeling like more familiar, definitely. Though I do have to say, this is kind of really growing on me. I wonder which one feels like better in like a hot day where your hands are sweaty, which to me happens quite a lot. I'm almost inclined to say probably the leather one, because it's like it has like less of a texture where like your greases could get in. If we're gonna want to get really disgusting for a second, the insides. Now, obviously, the insides do not matter that much. They do look better on the leather, I would say. They do have like this fine, like, well, it is skin, right? There really is no way around it. I'm training to become a dermatologist, so skin doctor. So yeah, definitely. Well, it looks almost like a little fur is on top, though that probably has to do with how obviously leather is made. Not that it still has some cow fur on it, but I mean like the surface of the skin is like textured this way naturally. Origin, I know, FineWoven on a sweaty day sounds awful. Well, does a jeans sound awful to you on a sweaty day? Right? It's not like look at this. It's not like that there's like a pronounced, like actually like three-dimensional texture. It's just like it's not like I want my hands to get sweaty right now, though I'm trying like subconsciously to activate my glands here. Like, I do believe this will probably age worse. I don't know why. Like, which one feels harder? Actually pretty identical. So I don't think either one would like lose against the other. Like leather sound, FineWoven sound. You see? It absorbs more. Definitely. Obviously, that doesn't mean that it will absorb more of a drop impact, right? But you are going to put a titanium phone into this one at least, so that will have its own advantages. Also, the phone will be lighter, which sure, weight doesn't technically impact drop speed, but it still somewhat does. It depends more on how the weight is balanced across the device. Yeah, here this feels hard, right? Is this not the main material? Is that like just plastic? No, it's just like really hard, like it's elevated and really hardened though. No, wait, it looks like a little bit of plastic on top, right? For some cover, maybe it's just some silicone that's like really hardened to make sure the camera is well protected. Obviously, I'm not complaining here from an environmental perspective about like the lip essentially on like this super small part. Then you do have the buttons, which I say do feel nicer here. Yeah, the buttons here already feel a little tactile, which is interesting. So they give actually in a little, which they don't here. Here you actually press. You can, I think, see that if I do it like this, you actually like deform the actual case a little bit, which is interesting. While if you press here, you're really pressing only the button. That's interesting. Origin, you're saying you have to feel it for yourself to understand. Well, yeah, it's also not a hot summer day right now, right? It is warmer than it used to be, like during the rest of the week today. So, but it is also now 11 p.m. So it's definitely not as hot as it could be. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. I kind of have to say though, like my favorite leather is still probably like this one actually, like the ink colored leather magnetic leather bracelet. Now for one, I do think that my perception is colored a little bit through the funness of the mechanism. Also, please look at the inside where you do have like this very typical like brown tone, I would say, and it has aged. This band is not that old, and you can see that where it is interacting with, like, obviously they have to overlap, right, for the Apple Watch to close around your wrist. So this is color from this, right? Which obviously ain't great, right? Whenever color moves, I'm kind of inclined to not really trust the color, though obviously sweat is actually a really, really good like removal for paint and stuff like that. So maybe it wouldn't, like, I'm not saying obviously the paint is toxic in any way because it colors something else. Obviously anything can color anything. It's just this has happened a little quicker than I expected. Also, when you look at the brown tone throughout it, it's not super even. It might look pretty even in the camera. It does not look that way in real life. However, it feels so freaking good. You have like that slightly broken texture of leather, you know, when you like fold leather, but it's still like fully intact, but you have like this really nice texture. So that's really positive. I don't know if FineWoven will be able to replicate that. Obviously, when you look at the product red lying around, you'll also find that it obviously aged. How will this age? I don't know, to be quite honest. Oh, this actually looks pretty cool when I do that with my eye. So texture impression, I'll be giving first impression win to leather. I cannot say what will happen once this ages. I cannot like obviously give you a guarantee which one is like more resistant to heat, water, sweat, stuff like that. Maybe I should like make a comparison with my mom after a year, though I do work out a lot, which kind of like would obviously impact anything else. Though I have to say, you can see it on the table, I'm kind of thinking of getting a new Pitaka case for my 15 Pro Max. I know that sounds a little shitty because obviously I spent $70 on this. It's not cheap by any means, but I really wanted to feel that for myself, and I really wanted to give you guys this impression. Origin, I hate to ask, but could you pour water on your hands to test the feel? Yeah, that's not a problem. Let me just briefly like hide my camera here. Sorry, I had to move my camera out of the way, so because I didn't want you guys to see my hairy legs. So I put some water on my hands. Obviously, water will not destroy either one. It almost makes me wonder if this is absorbing it a little bit, right? This looks unchanged. This looks pristine. And I had actually more water on my right hand than on my left one. If you look at the leather, this could mean that it's more repellent, which would technically be better for it in the long run. But if this is absorbing water, I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't look like it has like, you know, like a wet spot. That's actually a fascinating test. Thank you for suggesting it. Just briefly dry it on myself. what that means for like comparing it afterwards. They both feel pretty much identical to before. Now this feels more wet on the outside. I'm not gonna experiment with oils and stuff like that, I'm not gonna burn them. That there's no point in this. They will both be shitty after trying to burn them. They will probably both not burn. So for this shit, please look at Jerry Rig Everything, because apparently it is kind of useful to know how long your phone will survive in open fire. I have no idea. So this feels like it absorbed the water and it's completely dry on the outside. It has not gotten like anything like a wet spot. Like, well, I could almost feel it ever so slightly here, but it's not visible neither to my eye nor to the camera really. Absorbing water. What happens if you spill tea? I'm not gonna do that, my dude. But you have to understand, all materials kind of absorb it a little bit. Like leather does still have some absorption like capabilities. Obviously it's like it is designed to be shielded here. But yeah, this reacted really in a surprising way. But yeah, it actually feels a little wet here. I think it can only absorb probably a very small amount at any given time though. So it's really hard to tell. Yeah, it feels a little cooler here. This one is now completely dry and is completely back to feeling normal. I look like I'm like I'm an objectophile, right? Like, oh, this feels so good. I have like a professor in my university like that who like explains like the sensors we have in our hands to feel stuff, and he does like this demonstration of like feel the table in front of you, and kind of gets a little creepy. Oh my god, I forgot I was still on mute. Oh, thank you so guys, I was testing out a lot of stuff. I apologize. I did okay, let me do that again, right? Putting on some Coke. This is why I like having the chat with me. Sorry, I forgot to mute. So I did put a little bit on Coke here, and then like I rubbed it on here. And it behaved pretty much like the water. There's no absorption here. Now it is sugar free, so this will not be quite as bad as regular Coke, though it does still have acid in it. But it just doesn't do anything to it. Like over the long term, I of course assume that stuff like that could be bad for it, but so I'm doing the same one here. I'm not cheating, guys, at all. You see? It got wet. My mom's gonna kill me for potentially ruining her new leather case there, but it's still behaves well. Now doing the same one here. Yes, this absorbs shit. This absorbs shit. Oh my god, this absorbs stuff. Oh. Yeah, guys, I'm buying myself a Pitaka case. That one ain't absorbing shit. Oh my, yes, it does. My first impression was correct. This will likely age horribly. This will probably be worse for the environment because I can imagine people buying several of them. Now, I obviously assume that this one will get back to normal, like if I wash it out a little bit. But now I know why they said that, like, it would get like rings from MagSafe accessories, because this one will basically, like, whatever shit you have like on around the magnets of MagSafe. Oh shit. Now I'm not gonna return this to Apple because I do want to like make a test out of this, right? See how it ages. I am honestly really disappointed. Wow. Obviously, one time won't ruin it, right? It's similar to how if you spill something on a couch, you see, it's gone back to looking almost absolutely normal. It's obviously still a little wet right around where I put it. Oh, shit. This is not quite what I expected. Though it does make sense now with it being obviously FineWoven, doesn't it? Now you can make like fabric, make it like water resistant, but it might be an unnecessarily complicated and expensive thing to put on a case. But this, yeah, guys, I don't know what to say. This is worse than this in a very obvious way. This feels better. Now it doesn't feel this doesn't feel bad to me, right? I think if I would give like, I would probably give this like an 8.5 to a 9 because there is still somewhat better leather out there, though it tends to be more expensive. Origin, you're saying something like coffee won't be easy to get out. Well, Coca-Cola is not easy to get out either. It just so happens that obviously the amount that I put on it was not that substantial. So that's a really interesting, like almost like conundrum to how it will behave in the future, right? Will it all wash off similarly to how a little drizzle did? Or would like substantially larger amounts really behave far worse? So, yeah, I don't think that I can for now recommend it, to be honest. I don't want to make this video unnecessarily long. I think I got out of it what I really wanted to know. I really, like, once I started feeling it, I didn't expect to be, like, naming a winner. Now, I should note, I cannot guarantee that this result is going to be, like, applicable long term. Maybe leather will, like, age faster in the sun than this will do, right? Leather does age in the sun. Maybe something like acid, which, I mean, there it is some in the Coca-Cola, but I mean, like coffee does have acid too, by the way. Maybe acid would have like a bigger impact on leather than it does on this one. So, but for now, my very early results don't even necessarily get leather. Get something like the Pitaka one. I mean, this, if I do the Coke test again, I could spill the entire can on this. It wouldn't change anything. Obviously, it doesn't absorb anything. This is why it's glistening. That's actually a good sign for a material. I could lick it, nothing would happen. I could bite it and nothing would happen, given that those are aramide fibers. I think it's called like that in English too, right? Yeah, it has obviously survived a ton of rain. There obviously are other alternatives. There's also obviously like leather alternatives, and I will mention Nomad because they are a pretty good company in that regard. Now this was always my always, because well, it is kind of the newest one, but I did try out a lot of like leather accessories over the years. Then over the time I went a little bit more environmentally conscious, but I like this so much with like the magnetic stuff and how it looked, like the ink color. I really wanted to get this, and I do think it's pretty like, it's environmentally okay to get something made out of leather occasionally. So I'll just briefly present it all to you again. Right, so this is the main story that we have here. So we have old used leather, we have new good looking leather. Oh, I do have to say though, like, look at it. It's not like it looks like it has absorbed anything, right, anymore, but it was a very small amount. But it definitely did absorb it. It just basically almost like cleaned itself, because it goes down to like the deeper parts of the material. Some of it dries off because obviously it's so little and the surface area is comparatively big where I put it on, that it's kind of easy for it to dry. Origin, now waiting for Android manufacturer to copy this case design. Apple, why? Well, I do believe this might still be like a work in progress. It's hard for me because I'm not taking back that leather one here. I definitely am not. I will have to say that I dislike some of the reactions to the FineWoven case based on how it feels. I don't think the fabric is anywhere near as bad feeling as some make it out to be. By the way, I tried to give it like a score. I said before that leather is like an 8.5 to a 9. This is an 8. Right, so it's a solid half to a full point behind. Once we get into like wettish territory, it probably goes down to like a 7.5. Doesn't feel bad though, definitely not. Like the silicone cases that Apple has, those are like a 4 to me. I could never. So it feels like a weird in between step, ironically, right? On its quest to get rid of leather, Apple created something that definitely is better than their silicone cases, which, by the way, I don't care if they absorb something or not, they age horribly. Like, put them out once in the sun and they look like they've been there for a year. But I have to say, leather wins here. Even though you can see like even like 2.5-year-old leather doesn't look that good anymore, but day one impression kind of is king when it comes to accessories. And well, I'm not going to compare the prices because the prices are the same. It just so happens that I could get like this leather case by like a 30% off from an already reduced price. So I got it for like half the price of the new FineWoven case, but obviously that won't apply to like a premium alternative from another brand. So yeah, I actually really like giving you this impression. I'm honestly kind of shocked, but I'm happy to have been able to share this experience with you. Please, as always, like, subscribe, share this video if you want to make your friends know how this case actually behaves. Well, hopefully the watch bands are better. I'm not getting one. I'll probably be testing out like the Alpine Loop one. I will be testing it out for sure. It's just I'm not sure I'm gonna make a video out of it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's very worth experiencing, I would say. Like if you can go to an Apple store and get it, get it to test out. Obviously don't buy it right away. Maybe you will actually love the feeling. Maybe you won't care about the potential durability issues that I mentioned. Will I cut it with a knife? Nope, I'm not going to. This is for Jerry Rick everything shit, not for me. Yeah, so I mentioned please do all the YouTube jazz. Please follow me on Twitter. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. You can find the links to both in my channel description. I don't yet know if I'm going to be streaming tomorrow or even what that stream would be like. But obviously you can expect a lot of upcoming content given me getting my Apple Watch Ultra 2, given me getting my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and now that iOS 17 is fully out, I can start collecting my impressions on it fully. It's actually really polished. Battery life on the 13 Pro Max is really good, as is performance, as is cellular connectivity, as is camera performance, which the reason why I'm mentioning camera is because I had some weird camera bugs during the early beta phases which never fully got away. Now they are, which is definitely positive. Origin Unknown, you're saying you liked, I assume you liked the video, which I'm really grateful for. So see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for inspiring me to do some mischief on the cases. This is Mark Tech saying thank you and tuning out.